or omissions? Seeing none, we will approve the minutes. All those in favor? Opposed, and that carries. So now we have disclosure of pecuniary interest. Don.
139 William Street. I'm the owner and the applicant.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mac.
For 106 Wellington Street, I'm doing the design work for this project.
106 Wellington, okay. I'll take this moment to address the quorum question. So we're at minimum quorum right now, 6 out of a membership of 10. And that includes the resignation that we had. We formerly had 11 members. So the number that we need for quorum is still 6. If someone is out on pecuniary interest, the number of total members goes down. So then we need 5. If one member is out on pecuniary, we need 5 for quorum. So that basically pecuniary never affects whether we can vote or not. It never makes us lose quorum. What would make us lose quorum is if someone left before the end of the meeting. If anyone leaves, if you're going to leave, if you need to leave by a certain time, let me know, because that will effectively end the meeting as soon as you leave. Yes, Catherine? Noon. Okay, so one of our members has to leave at noon, so we have almost 2.5 hours. Okay, any other disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. No presentations, delegation, are there any delegations? No delegations or briefings. So business item 8, there's nothing under the ABC, and under D, statutory business, we have 4 files. The first one is 100 Portsmouth Avenue /899 King Street West, St. Lawrence College, and there's a recommendation there for us. And I see Mackenzie is here to introduce the item.
This application relates to the property at 100 Portsmouth Avenue, and it makes up the entire block between Portsmouth and Country Club Drive, and it's part of the St. Lawrence College campus. This application relates to the southwestern corner of that property along King Street West, and it's the building known as New Court House. New Court House is a Regency-style villa with an ornate front veranda that was constructed between 1820 and 1850. And this property is designated under Part 4 of the Heritage Act. So this application has been submitted to request permission to remove an exterior fire door and the associated metal fire escape within the 1.5-story wing to the rear of the main building, as well as remove a small chipboard shed on the east side of the main building. These alterations are required as part of a larger renovation project for the building, and that's to accommodate a new use for the college. The applicant has submitted a detailed scope of work and description of the larger proposal, which includes a number of minor interior and exterior alterations to the building. The applicant has provided documentary evidence to demonstrate that the fire exit and fire escape is not original. It was likely added in the 1960s, and the owner wishes to reinstate the original configuration of the facade by removing those and infilling the opening and restoring the rough cast facade. The applicant has also retained a heritage consultant, Andre Scheinman, to advise on this work, including the type of stucco and historically accurate paint colors to be used to reinstate the appearance of these facades. The minor alterations that I mentioned are being processed through a separate permit through staff's delegated authority in accordance with the permissions of that bylaw. This application was circulated, I beg your pardon. So New Court House is significant for a number of cultural heritage reasons, mainly that it's part of what was once a 44-acre property, the country villa, and cultural heritage landscape. It's associated with a number of individuals, themes, and organizations which are before you this morning. It's also included in the designation bylaw in this package for the report. There will be no negative impacts on the cultural heritage attributes for New Courthouse. So this application was circulated through DASH to all of the internal departments, whose comments have been incorporated as conditions of approval where appropriate. This application was also circulated to Heritage Kingston. Through DASH, we received a number of comments in support of the application. One member did express some concerns with respect to the doors being replaced, and staff were able to forward the members' suggestions to the applicant and their heritage consultant, and those suggestions were incorporated as conditions of approval of that separate permit. So staff is recommending approval of this application, subject to the conditions outlined here, and are happy to answer any questions at this time. Thanks.
Thank you, Mackenzie. So this is a Part 4 application, so we follow the normal committee guidelines. So we go questions only from members of the committee, then we go to members of the public, and then we go to deliberations on the recommendation. So questions only. Anyone from the committee? Mac.
Just a quick one, not that relevant in some ways. So I take they don't need that fire exit anymore? The use of the inside has changed, or?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, that's correct. The interior is changing, so it's no longer necessary.
Anyone else? Okay, so we go to members of the public now that wish to speak, and that would include the agent for the applicant if they wish to speak. Seeing, oh, yes, please come forward, identify yourself, and state your comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Frank Dixon. Thank you to staff for the report of the presentation. I've walked by this place hundreds of times and was always curious about it, and looks like it's going to be enhanced and adapted for modern reuse and hopefully retain all of the important heritage properties. I've got no issues with the application, but I'm just wondering one question. If there might be more in the way of a projection of the heritage assets of the building so that it can be better understood by the public. Don't think there's really anything there that explains that. Like all of the stuff that's in the report, it's all very interesting. But if it is like an 1820s to 1850s era building, that is one of the oldest buildings in Kingston, right? And it's an asset that people don't necessarily know about. So, I guess that's really my request. It isn't really central to the main point of the report and the application, but just someone who cares about heritage, and I know people in this committee and visitors certainly do, if we could do more of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Are there any other members of the public that wish to speak? Seeing none, staff has an opportunity to respond to the comments.
No, thank you, Mr. Chair.
The only thing I could say about the significance is what's contained in the designation bylaw, which is on page 17 of the package. Anyway, that's about all I could offer on that. Thank you. So now we need a mover and a seconder for the recommendation. So moved by Mac, seconded by Catherine. So the recommendation is essentially that the alterations, that we recommend to council that the alterations be approved. The work is listed in the one clause, so it says alterations to include the removal of a modern fire exit and associated fire escape, as well as a small side shed. So that's the work that would be approved by council, and then there's 4 conditions. Does anyone wish to speak? Yes, Don.
I think everyone's very pleased to hear about these renovations. I just want to make a small comment on the door. It's not a big deal. I was mentioning that I doubted that a plank door would be appropriate for an outside entrance rather than a somewhat more formal door. And now, under the conditions, they have a choice, and that's fine. My understanding, if I understand the diagram right, this door that we're speaking of will in fact be the everyday entrance to the house rather than the formal front door. So again, I think it's perhaps more appropriate that it be a little more formal style of door. And I might also mention, I'm sure the applicants know, but one can buy all kinds of period doors, 4-panel, 5-panel, 6-panel, even plank doors from Ballycanoe Salvage for a very reasonable price.
Okay, our clerk is noting the comments for the minutes. Anyone else wish to speak? Okay, so then we have to vote on the recommendation. All those in favor? Opposed? And that carries. Good luck with the work. The next file is 139 William Street. So that one we have Dawn out on a conflict. And you have to leave the chamber, Dawn. Oh, you can stay for the presentation and then you have to leave for deliberations. And it looks like Mackenzie is going to present.
Sorry. James.
I feel like we should put some little music on to technical difficulties. It's a little early in the morning to sing. My son was singing this morning, getting ready for school, though. It was very cute. He didn't know anyone was listening, I don't think. Yeah, I didn't realize he was looking forward to it. We went through his schoolwork that there's a big pile that we had from last year, from his grade 3 year, and my wife and I went through it over the Christmas holidays because we were doing the recycling and throwing everything out. And there was books and books filled with homemade Pokemon cards that he had drawn by hand with all the little numbers and everything and all the little pictures. I think he might be like a comic illustrator or something, because that's what he does in his spare time, basically, at school. We kept some. And he also gave his sisters 30 or 40 homemade cards each for Christmas. Okay, that was the interlude. Go ahead, Mackenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this application is for 139 William Street. It's located on the north side of William Street between Bagot and Sydenham. It contains a 4-bay, 2.5-story red brick double house with projecting flat roof bay windows on the ground floor, a dental line cornice, as well as common drip molding and openings on the William Street facade. This building was constructed in 1882, and it's designated under Part 5 of the Heritage Act as part of the Old Sydenham Conservation District. So this application has been submitted to request permission to remove the existing front deck and steps and replace them with a new covered porch and front steps that are slightly smaller in area than the existing deck. The owner and applicant has indicated that the existing deck has deteriorated and he wishes to replace it with a small covered porch area in order to add some protection from the elements. The applicant has undertaken historic research to including the review of the William Newlands plans for this building, as well as a study of other Victorian-era porches in the district. And he has based the design of the new porch on these findings. Details of the proposal have been included as Exhibit C to this report. This property has a number of cultural heritage attributes. The double house was constructed for a customs agent named Joseph Quigley. It's also located in the Beyond Bagot sub-area in the district, which was the second area of expansion. This property exemplifies a number of the noted attributes for this sub-area, which makes it important in the district, particularly that it was designed by one of Kingston's most well-known architects, William Newlands. So this application was circulated to the internal departments, whose comments have been incorporated as conditions of approval where appropriate. This application will be subject to a minor variance application, which the applicant has submitted concurrently. And this application was circulated to the committee. We received only a couple comments, and one concern was raised with respect to maintaining the visibility of the molding detail above the entranceway. And staff have confirmed with the applicant that this will not be covered by the new porch roof, so that it maintains the visual balance with the unit next door. So staff have reviewed and are satisfied that the proposed alterations meet the designation goals and objectives of the district plan, particularly with respect to the goals related to supporting and encouraging conservation and the continued use of the district's heritage attributes. So this new porch will allow the owners to safely enter the building and enjoy their front yard while still maintaining the heritage attributes of the building and the district. Staff are recommending approval of this application subject to the conditions outlined before you.
Thank you, Mackenzie. So this is a Part 5 application in the Sydenham District, so that means you submit your comments through Dash. If you did not, you can add to them. But this is the point where we ask if your comments that you submitted through Dash were accurately captured. And it's just Mac that would apply to at this point. So if he's okay, then that's that. Then we go to members of the public for comment, and you can add comment that will get added to the file by the clerk. Anyone from the public? Seeing none. And then we go back to members of the committee. You have an opportunity to submit oral comments that will get taken down by the clerk to add to the file. Yes, Mac.
Just one question. I mean, I think the project's great. I've got no problems with it. When was the other, one of the photographs that showed a little hip roof on there, when was that on there, Don, and when was it removed? Or I guess maybe somebody can answer that.
The questions have to be directed at staff.
Okay, staff?
Yeah.
I believe this is the image you're referring to?
Yeah.
I believe it's from the 1970s, 1979.
But what about if it's... One second. The clerk has informed me that this is the moment when the applicant that's in conflict needs to leave the chamber. Yes, Catherine.
Just a question. And I really like the design of the new porch. There isn't an image of the actual porch with the door behind it. So I can't see how tight it is to the actual width of the door.
Same width as the porch.
Whether it's...
Yeah, but they should be adding comment.
In other words, how wide is the door itself?
So it jogs out a fair piece. That's the width of the door.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I don't have the exact width of the door. It is a double door, which is different from the neighboring property. I'm not sure if it's appropriate to ask the applicant if he has the exact width.
I'll allow the applicant. Dawn, can you come back in the room to answer a question? Just keep in mind with these questions, folks, that ultimately you need to put a comment on the record. So the questions are to help you frame your comment. But if you're not going to make a comment, there's no point in asking questions. But anyway, go ahead. So the question again for the applicant.
I'm just wondering how wide the actual door is with the molding above it.
Relative to the columns. Relative to the
Yes, exactly. Whether the columns on the porch stand in front of the molding at the top of the door, or whether they are to the side of that, to the sides of it.
I believe they are roughly aligned. Well, it's a bit complicated because there's a kind of pediment a brick pediment going up the side of the house.
Yes.
So I wanted to keep clear of that. And so it's just inside that. And that's really about as wide as it can be. The other big issue here is that if the porch is any wider, it trespasses too close to the lot line and is a problem with access to that alleyway down the right there. So for that reason, the design doesn't have columns against the brick walls, so that none of the features on the house are obscured. So I think that's the best I could do.
Thank you. So the comment would be, it's just that I was concerned that, in fact, the columns do not, as Mac was saying about the actual roof of it being not obscuring that molding at the top, that in fact the sides are not obscuring the molding at the top.
But there are no columns against the wall.
No, exactly, but I'm saying when you're looking straight at it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And yes, thank you, Don. I'm going to go back out for deliberations. Yes, Mac.
It's actually quick procedural. Wouldn't Don have had the opportunity to make comments if he wanted to, like any other applicant?
Under members of the public.
Don would have had an opportunity. Don would have had an opportunity under members of the public to make comment, and he was.
Okay, so we're still at a place where you can add comments, and keep in mind that the next step is we vote on the recommendation, which is whether or not Heritage Kingston supports council's approval, right? That's the Part 5 wording. So that's the recommendation. And basically, it's just a yes or no question. So a yay or nay whether we support council's approval. So I need a mover and a seconder for that. Moved by Mac, seconded by Catherine. I guess there is debate allowed here, but it's really only on the point of whether we support approval or not. Does anyone wish to say anything before we vote? No, we'll just go ahead and vote. All those in favor? Opposed? And that carries. Don, you can come back. The next one is 106 Wellington, so it's Mac's turn. So Mac, you can stay in the room until it's in the committee's hands, and then you have to leave. So the next one is 106 Wellington Street, and it looks like Ryan's going to present this one.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this application is 106 Wellington Street. It's at the northwest side of Wellington, between Johnson and William Streets. It includes a 2.5-story red brick dwelling built in 1904. And then to the back of the property is a rear private parking area and private lane access. This is the Heritage Building facing Wellington Street. In terms of cultural heritage value, the property was built in 1904 in a red brick and limestone, and it's in the Queen Anne style. between 1918 and 1942, it was the office of Dr. Woe, who ran a dental practice out of this building, and it contributed to sort of a medical district along this part of Wellington Street, where there were a number of other practicing physicians along here. And it's also an important part of the streetscape of Wellington Street. So this application is to remove a one-story rear addition at the back of the property, which is in this location, and construct a two-story addition to the rear with a two-story deck. So this is what it looks like today at the rear. And so this is the addition here, two-story addition, be sided in either wood or metal in a red or brown tone. It includes a two-story deck at the back. So again, here's the side. This is the rear view, perspective of the rear. There'll be no changes to the proposed, to the Wellington Street elevation, which is the highly visible part of the property. In terms of our review, the current one-story wood rear addition is not noted as a heritage attribute, so its removal will have little to no impact on the district. The proposed addition will only be very minimally visible from the street. You can see it just sort of peeking out here from Wellington Street, and therefore have little impact on the district itself. So upon our review and the submitted materials and the applicable legislation and policy, we recommend approval of this. It was circulated to the usual agencies. A building permit is required. The engineering department notes that any changes to the grading and drainage are not to affect neighboring lands. Planning staff note that that it appears to meet the zoning requirements of this zone, but confirmation should be done at the building permit stage, and no site plan control is required for this. It was circulated to this committee. No concerns were expressed. However, two comments suggestions were provided. One had to do with the window openings on the side, on the north side, I believe, north side, west side of the building. They are a mix of vertical and horizontal. The suggestion was perhaps using them all as vertical to match the rest of the building. As we noted, this is only minimally visible from the public realm, and it is well set back from the street. As you can see, the street is out at this end of the building. And staff have no concerns with this, although we did provide it to the applicant for consideration. They've noted that they prefer the horizontal windows given the layout and the use of the rooms inside. A second suggestion was made to support, regarding the supports of the rear addition. Back here, they appear to be proposed as jack posts, and this recommendation was that they could be solid steel or wood. Again, we provided this to the applicants, and they will consider or are considering cladding steel posts with wood or perhaps using rounded steel posts in this area. And the use of steel or wood columns is supportable from our opinion, and we've included that as an option in our recommendation. So, Mr. Chair, we support approval of this application. The motion is on the screen, and I believe the applicants and their agents are here if there's any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. So same as the last file for procedure, part 5. So first thing is to confirm that your comments in dash were accurately captured. It was Peter Goheen and Don that made comments. So Don, if that's okay? Okay. So then we go to members of the public, including, if necessary, any member of the public, basically. Yeah, go ahead. Come to the microphone.
Hi, just as per the couple of comments, the family, Peter's daughter and family are moving in, so they need more space, which is why we're doing this. As they mentioned, it's not really visible from Wellington Street hardly at all, and from, is it Earl Street or Earl Street? Yeah, and from Earl Street, you look up the alleyway, you can barely see it. The comment about the two horizontal windows is that's on the north side of the building, and the building right beside it is deeper than what this proposed building is, and there's like about a 4-foot alleyway there. So I mean, if it is on the other side facing towards the open driveway, the horizontal windows might be more of an issue, but they really can't be seen. I mean, you'd be walking along this 4-foot alleyway. If you looked up, you might notice that. And the steel posts, I mean, we never really tend to, we have a steel beam, so we have to have a steel post of some sort. We never really intend to be a jack post, we just label it that, but it'd either be a solid steel column painted, or we do, or we would clad it with wood to make like a wood column, but one of those options, as the staff has said, both work fine with them, so.
You got that, James? Okay. Any other members of the public?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm in favor of the project. And if the heritage aspects of the building and the district are retained, then I think it makes sense to have higher density on a property when it can be accommodated. So that appears to be the case here. I think the design is attractive, and I'll just say good luck with the project.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Seeing none, we would, yes, thank you, member of the committee who's in conflict must leave, and we go to oral submissions from members of the committee. Okay, I have one, so if you want to take the chair, Don.
Yes, I recognize you.
Thank you. Try to keep this brief. Basically, when you're adding a contemporary addition to a heritage structure in a heritage district, scale is very important. So, for example, as we have seen in other places in the downtown area with additions for housing, sometimes the addition is equal in size or even bigger than the original house. In a heritage setting, that would definitely be discouraged. But here we don't see that. We see a much smaller in scale footprint, a footprint similar to the original shed that was there. So the scale is smaller. It's inset from both exterior walls, and in general, the general size is compatible because it doesn't take away from the street facade and the size and massing of the original heritage building. So I think this is the way you do it. I think, and other than that, I agree with Mr. Dixon about infill. If the infill is compatible, then I support it. So thank you, and I am in support of the application.
I return the chair.
Anyone else have any oral comments to add to the file? Seeing none, there's recommendation that council support, that we support council's approval of the application. So you'll see there's the alterations are described in the first clause, and then there's a number of conditions, 3 conditions. Sorry? Oh, did I miss you? I didn't see your hand, sorry. Okay, well, I haven't asked for a mover and seconder yet, so we're still on oral submissions. Go ahead.
This is just thinking ahead into the future. I have no problem with this, but from my perspective, I think, in 50 and 100 years, when people look at these historic buildings and they see these new additions, I don't know if it's a concern, but I think it's an idea and a thought that the new additions that go on the historic buildings, should they not be the best contemporary design we can do? Should they not reflect the style and a design quality of the current times, so that in 50 and 100 years, people are not just continually ripping down these boxes that are attached to these historic homes, that they might be considered heritage as well. And I know it's not within our purview to discuss contemporary design, but what is contemporary now will at a later date be historic. And anyway, it's a comment on what kind of additions we accept from a contemporary design point of view onto the back of historic buildings.
Thank you. You got that done. Okay, thanks. Yes, very, thank you for the comment, and we could discuss that aspect at some length, but unfortunately this structure for Part 5 doesn't give us the opportunity to do that. Maybe we can have some of those conversations at another time. So we need a mover and a seconder for the recommendation. That's at the bottom of page 3 there. So moved by Catherine, seconded by Megan. So I've already described it as basically the supporting the approval. Anyone wish to speak? I guess I will speak. Don, if you want to take the chair.
Yes, I recognize you.
Yes, but this is whether we support the approval of the council. So at council will likely on something like this be tempted to think about the non-heritage aspects that are relevant, such as infill in a residential area and what that does, and the monster home additions and that kind of thing when you're increasing housing. None of those things are heritage aspects. The way it goes is our role here is to point out the heritage context and whether it's compatible with the Heritage District Plan. And that's our yay or nay on supporting the approval has to do with the heritage plan. So our understanding of the plan and whether this building project is compatible with the plan. And on that score, I would say that it is compatible with the Heritage District Plan, and I plan to support the application. Thank you.
Okay. Return the chair.
Okay. Anyone else wish to speak to the recommendation? Okay, then we'll vote on it. All those in favor? Opposed? And that carries. Thank you. Okay, we're on our fourth file under business. This is the heritage permit for 5 Clergy Street. And it looks like Ryan is going to present it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is 5 Clergy Street, the Sydenham Public School. The property is located at the south side of the street, on the southeast corner with Barry. The subject property includes a 2-story limestone institutional building built in 1853 with a rear addition that was added in 1952. And this is the limestone building here. In terms of its heritage value, it is designated under Part 4 as well in 1984, as well as under Part 5 in the Old Sydenham Heritage District. It was originally built for the Kingston County Grammar School in 1853 in the Gothic Revival style. It replaced the former Midland Grammar School that was located near the corner of Gore and King Street. And then this lasted until 1892, and it was moved to what is now the site of the current Kingston Collegiate Vocational Institute. It was turned into a primary school and named after the first Governor General of the United Canada, Lord Sydenham, and it's a landmark in the Sydenham district. So the applicants have proposed to do a number of renovations and restorations to this property, as well as a minor demolition. So this is sort of a hybrid application that's before you, and I'll explain that a little bit further. In terms of the alterations, complete overhaul of the masonry is to be done, including cleaning, pointing, and repairs to all masonry on the building, which include walls, chimneys, sills, etc., and replacement of stone as necessary. Repairing and restoring all the wood features on the building that include windows and sills and doors, brackets, soffits, fascia, as well as various repairs to the stucco at the rear. Restoration of the central cupola, which you can see before you, which includes repairing the wood trim, louvers, and flashing, repainting all painted surfaces, and replacing the roofing. The applicants are also proposing, and there's an extensive plans in your agenda package that show the assessment done to this building and the work proposed. I've highlighted the area where the rear storage building and vestibule is. So the applicants are proposing to remove this structure. It's 4.6 meters by 3.5 meters, concrete and brick, currently a vestibule into the building. And the plan is to remove it and restore the area, clean painting, masonry, and continue to use it as an entrance. In terms of our assessment, the proposed alterations that are before you are all positive onto this building. They have a positive impact and are necessary to ensure the longevity of this building. Staff have no concerns with these alterations and have included a number of conditions. The most significant alteration, of course, is the removal of this vestibule. It appears to have been added in the 1950s when the rear addition was added. It has no heritage value. It's not included as an attribute either in the individual bylaw or in the district, and staff have no concerns with its removal. So we are recommending approval of both the demolition and the alterations of this application. We circulated to relevant agencies. Building permit is required for certain aspects of this. The Kingston Hydro notes and reminds us the applicants to stay away from power lines. The Heritage Committee was circulated, and the comments are included in your agenda package. There were no significant concerns raised. There was one comment regarding the design of the front windows on the second floor, noting that it might be beneficial if they were to be restored, replaced with glazing patterns that match the ground floor, which would have been the period appropriate style. And while staff don't object to the proposal to repair the existing windows as they are, the option to replace the second story windows with a more period appropriate glazing is also supportable. So we have included that as an option, and we have provided that to the applicant for consideration. And I believe the applicant and agents are here if you have any questions for them, and we are recommending approval of this application. So just to reiterate, this is a two-part motion that we proposed, Mr. Chair. The first part being the demolition, which is asking for committee to support that as it's a standalone demolition, and then the alterations are under that alteration section where it's council who have the final say. So I'll leave that before you, and there's a list of conditions as well.
Thank you, Ryan. So just to clarify for procedure, the demolition part, which is the subject of the first clause and the one condition, that is the demolition because it's a designated building. That's part 4 language that applies there. The rest of the recommendation is the part 5 procedure and language. So we're not going to go through the file twice with 2 different procedures. So instead, I'll just allow questions from members of the committee on the demolition only, right off the bat, and we can just deal with that the regular committee way if you have any questions, because at the end of the day, it's a yes/no question. Do we support the demolition permit, yes or no? So questions from members of the committee on the demolition only. I have a question. Are you leaving the chamber? No, she's just standing up. My question, Ryan, this may be impossible to answer, but you did note in your introduction that it was named after Lord Sydenham, and and we're also talking about the old Sydenham Heritage District, and it's also the name of the electoral district. Do we know which came first, the school being named after Lord Sydenham or the district being called Sydenham District, or Sydenham Ward, I guess, at the time? Because I've never been able to find out the origin of why we call this place Sydenham Ward.
I'm afraid, Mr. Chair, I don't have that answer off the top of my head. But there's a lot of expertise in this room. Perhaps somebody else knows.
Does anyone here know? Yes, please.
I can't give you an exact answer, but the wards are numbered until much later than 1850s.
Okay, thank you. So this school was called Sydenham School before, so perhaps the ward was named after the school. Right. All right. Yes, Alan, Ms. McLeod.
Completely nothing to do with being a lawyer. Your deputy clerk and I play on a vintage baseball team playing 1860s rules called the Kingston St. Lawrence. It's because they came from St. Lawrence Ward in the 1860s, which was, I believe, Brock and Princess Street. So at least at that point, a name is ascribed, which takes nothing away from Mr. Gower's point that prior to a certain point, they were numbered.
Okay, so anyways, regarding the demolition, any other questions? Seeing none, we will, do we deal with that now? We do the rest of it, yeah. We're gonna do the Part 5 procedure now, so you had a chance to submit your comments through Dash. If you did, and it was captured incorrectly, now's your chance to correct that. Seeing none, we go to members of the public if they would like to comment on this file.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Thanks for the presentation and the report. All very interesting. So if the demolition of the vestibule is approved, that would just revert to open space, right? Is that a correct assessment?
Okay. So there's one question from a member of the public. Anyone else? No one else wishes to speak, so staff has a chance to respond to the question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, there's nothing proposed in that location. Once that structure is removed, it will be, I believe it'll still be a secondary access into the building. But the applicants are here, they can correct me if I'm mistaken.
Staff has answered on behalf of the applicants, and they've nodded that that is correct. All right, then we go to the recommendation itself. So members have a chance to add oral submissions to the file at this point. Seeing none, we will vote on the recommendation that Heritage Kingston supports Council's approval of the following. And then you see the work, which the alterations, there's six points to the alteration, and then there's 5 conditions. And then there's also clause number 1, which has to do with the demolition permit. So if we're going to vote all at once, A, that we support the demolition permit, and B, that we support Council's approval of the alterations. Moved by Mac, seconded by Don. I see no comments, so all those in favor? Oppose, and that carries. Good luck with the work. Okay, we're on to working group reports. We've got reports from all 3 working groups, and I'm also told that all the working groups had a chance to visit Kingston Penitentiary since our last meeting. So you'll see the working group report notes in pages 141 to 153. Okay. And at this point, I would invite our director from the cultural department if she would like to speak to the briefing notes.
Through you, Mr. Chair, and correction, thanks, Manager of Cultural Heritage.
Oh, sorry.
I'll let Colin know. So our working group reports from the Cultural Heritage Group reflect on our visit to the Kingston Penitentiary site, where we toured the property with the group to think about cultural heritage components of that site and how they might inform future visions for the site, sympathetic to the council directive, but also just thinking about interpretation strategies more broadly. And if I can speak to the Heritage Assets Working Group notes at the same time. The notes that have been provided by Paul Robertson, City Curator, speak to the most recent meeting of this group to look at a souvenir booklet and decision to move that as a recommend to adopt into the civic collection. The report that will actually motion for this is coming at the next meeting. So these notes are just reflective of what was discussed at the last working group.
Okay, so we need a motion to receive all 3 sets. Is it 3 or 4 sets? 1, 2, 3. 3 sets. There's 2 Heritage Properties Working Group sets from 2 meetings, November 21st and December 12th, and then there's one joint cultural heritage and cultural assets or heritage assets from January 9th. Yes, November. So there's 4. There's a joint, a cultural. There's a joint one and 3 heritage properties meetings. And some of the heritage properties meetings are extra special meetings because of the Kingston Penitentiary designation discussions. So anyways, we need a mover and a seconder to receive the notes. Moved by Patricia, seconded by Dawn. Does anyone wish to speak? Okay, well, the notes are there on public record. And I have nothing to say, and no one else does. So we will vote on the reception of the notes. All those in favor? Opposed, and that carries. Thanks everyone for attending today, because if any one of you hadn't, we wouldn't have been able to have a meeting. The last item of business is our next meeting. There's an item of correspondence at the end of the package from CHO. And the next meeting is next month on the 3rd Wednesday at 9:30 a.m., the regular time, February 21st. And unfortunately, I have some bad news. I was told that our heritage planner, Mackenzie, has accepted a job in Ottawa, and this is her last meeting. So we're going to wish you good luck in your future endeavors. I'll just pause for a moment. Thank you so much. Okay, Mac, you want to say something about the next meeting?
I want to make a comment, though. Maybe do the next meeting first, or I just like to make a general comment.
Is this like other business? You want to say something?
Yes, other business,
okay.
yes.
So other business, yes, that comes before. So go ahead.
Well, I got to say that I'm disappointed about Peter's resignation. I understand it. I'm going to debate myself between now and the next meeting as to whether I'm going to stay on the committee. I think, that I'm very disappointed that we've not been allowed to have a review of the committee. We were promised in this when the committee was reworked that we'd get a review, and that doesn't seem to be coming from the staff. And clearly, by the look that we barely make quorum every month, shows that people are feeling that this committee is less and less relevant. We've got great staff. I'm very sorry that we're going to be leaving Mackenzie, but the staff and Greg and Ryan are just, and Mackenzie is leaving us are doing a fabulous job. I just don't think that our committee is really very viable anymore. I don't know if Sherman also sent an email in between in comment to Peter's resignation that, I don't think that was sent around publicly, but he's having some frustrations and just finding that he's got better use of his time as he's, like I say, we're just not very relevant anymore. So I find that very unfortunate. So I just wanted to make that statement, and I will decide between now and the next meeting about my own situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mac. Any other business? Okay, so the next meeting is February 21st, 9:30. Please, it's imperative that the clerk know if you're not going to be here because of quorum issues. You have to notify the clerk in advance if possible. And just so you know, had we not made quorum today, I would have had to call a special meeting at a different time that's not a regular time to try and make quorum and deal with the business at that time. And that will be the case unless our attendance improves. So Need a motion to adjourn? Moved by Catherine, seconded by Don. All those in favor? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.